My name is Daniel McKenzie, and I'm 34 years old. I've been running the Sunset Ridge Ranch in Montana for the past 8 years, ever since I inherited it from my grandfather. What I'm about to tell you is the most extraordinary story of my life, a tale of how one moment of heroism led to a cultural collision that would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, honor, and tradition. It was a scorching hot day in July 2023 when my life changed forever. I was checking the fence line along Willow Creek, the natural boundary between my ranch and the Blackfoot reservation that bordered our property. The creek had been running higher than usual due to the spring snowmelt from the mountains, creating dangerous currents that could easily sweep away even experienced swimmers. I'd been working since dawn, repairing sections of fence damaged by the recent storms, when I heard something that made my blood run cold, a woman's scream coming from the direction of the creek. Dropping my tools, I ran toward the sound, my boots pounding against the rocky ground. What I saw when I reached the creek made my heart skip a beat. About 50 yards downstream, a young woman was struggling in the churning water. Being swept away by the powerful current, without hesitation, I dove into the creek. The water was shockingly cold despite the summer heat, and the current was stronger than I'd anticipated. I'm a strong swimmer, had to be, growing up on a ranch with multiple water sources, but this was different. The creek was angry, swollen with snowmelt and recent rains. The woman was about 20 yards ahead of me, her long black hair streaming behind her as she fought against the current. I could see she was weakening, her struggles becoming less coordinated as exhaustion and panic set in. "Hold on," I shouted, though I wasn't sure she could hear me over the roar of the water. "I'm coming." I swam harder than I'd ever swum in my life, using every ounce of strength to fight against the current. The woman went under just as I reached her, and for a terrifying moment, I thought I was too late. I dove down, searching frantically in the murky water until my hand found her arm. She was unconscious, her body limp as I pulled her to the surface. Getting her to shore was the hardest thing I'd ever done. She was dead weight, and the current seemed determined to claim both of us. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, I managed to drag her onto the rocky shore. She wasn't breathing. I immediately began CPR, pressing on her chest and breathing into her lungs, praying to whatever gods might be listening that I wasn't too late. Water poured from her mouth, and after what seemed like an eternity, she suddenly gasped and began coughing up creek water. "Easy," I said, helping her sit up. "You're safe now." As she caught her breath and her vision cleared, I got my first good look at her. She was absolutely beautiful, probably in her mid-20s, with striking features that spoke of Native American heritage. Her clothes, though soaked, appeared to be traditional dress, with intricate beadwork and patterns I didn't recognize. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You saved my life. What's your name?" I asked. "Are you hurt? Should I call for medical help?" "My name is Aiyana," she said, struggling to stand. "Aiyana Crow Feather. And no, please don't call anyone. I'm fine now. Thanks to you." "Aiyana," I repeated. "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Daniel McKenzie. I own the ranch just upstream." Her eyes widened slightly. "McKenzie Ranch. You're the white rancher my grandfather speaks of." "Your grandfather, Chief Joseph Crow Feather of the Blackfoot Nation?" I felt a chill that had nothing to do with my wet clothes. Chief Crow Feather was legendary in these parts, a respected leader who had worked tirelessly to preserve his people's traditions while navigating the complexities of modern life. I'd never met him personally, but his reputation commanded respect throughout the region. "I should get you back to your people," I said. "You need dry clothes and proper care." "No," Aiyana said quickly. "I can't go back. Not yet." "Why not?" She looked away, and I could see tears mixing with the creek water on her cheeks. I was running away from an arranged marriage to a man I don't love. Arranged marriage in this day and age. "You don't understand our ways," she said, not unkindly. "In our tribe, some traditions are still sacred. My grandfather believes that preserving our culture requires maintaining certain customs, even if they seem outdated to outsiders. But surely he wouldn't force you to marry someone you don't want to marry." "He's not forcing me, but the pressure, the expectations, I couldn't bear it anymore. So I ran. I looked at this beautiful, brave woman who had nearly died trying to escape a fate she couldn't accept, and I felt something stir in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. "Come on," I said. "Let's get you somewhere warm and dry. You can figure out what to do next once you're not in danger of hypothermia." I helped Aiyana back to my ranch house, giving her one of my flannel shirts and a pair of jeans that were too big for her, but at least dry. While she changed, I made coffee and tried to process what had just happened. I'd saved a Native American princess because that's essentially what she was. Being the granddaughter of a chief from drowning, she was running away from an arranged marriage. And now she was in my house, wearing my clothes, looking at me with eyes that seemed to see straight into my soul. "This coffee is wonderful," Aiyana said when she emerged from the bathroom, her long hair still damp but her color returning to normal. "It's nothing special, just ranch coffee. Everything is special when you've just escaped death." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, both of us processing the events of the afternoon. Finally, Aiyana spoke. "Daniel, I need to ask you something." Anything. Why did you save me? You don't know me. For all you knew, I could have been trespassing on your land, because it was the right thing to do. Because you're a human being, in danger, and I couldn't live with myself if I'd done nothing. She studied my face intently. You're not like what I expected. What did you expect? My grandfather always spoke of the white ranchers as different, focused only on their cattle and their profits. But you risked your life for a stranger. Maybe your grandfather's experiences have been different from mine. Maybe they have. As the afternoon wore on, Aiyana told me more about her life on the reservation, her education at the University of Montana, where she'd studied environmental science, and her dreams of finding a way to bridge the gap between traditional native ways and modern conservation efforts. I want to help my people, she said, but I also want to live my own life. Is that too much to ask? No, I said firmly. It's not too much to ask at all. The man my grandfather wants me to marry is a good man, she continued. Thomas, running bear. He's successful, respected, and he would provide well for me, but I don't love him, and he doesn't love me. We would be marrying for tradition, for the good of the tribe, and that's not enough for you. Is it enough for anyone? Don't you believe in love, Daniel? The question hit me harder than I expected. I'd been married once, briefly, in my 20s. It had ended badly when my ex-wife decided that ranch life wasn't for her. Since then, I'd focused on building my business and hadn't given much thought to love or marriage. I used to, I said honestly, but life has a way of making you practical. That's sad, maybe, but it's realistic. As evening approached, I knew we had to address the elephant in the room. Aiyana, your family must be worried sick about you. They probably think you drowned. I know, but I can't face going back. Not yet. You can't hide here forever. I'm not asking you to hide me forever. Just give me tonight, to think, to figure out what I'm going to do. I wanted to say yes. More than that, I wanted to protect her from whatever it was she was running from. But I also knew that harboring a chief's granddaughter without his knowledge could create serious problems. One night, I agreed, but tomorrow, we need to let your family know you're safe. Thank you, Daniel. You don't know what this means to me. That evening, we cooked dinner together, or rather, I cooked while Aiyana watched and asked questions about ranch life. She was curious about everything: how I managed the cattle, what challenges I faced, how I'd learned to run such a large operation on my own. It's not easy, I admitted. Some days I wonder if I'm crazy for trying to do this alone. Why do you do it alone? Surely you could hire help. I have some seasonal workers, but full-time help is expensive, and honestly, I like the independence. Independence, she mused. That's something I've never really had. What do you mean? I'm the granddaughter of a chief. Everything I do reflects on my family, my tribe. Every decision I make has to be weighed against tradition, expectation, responsibility. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to just be myself. You seem pretty much yourself to me. Or am I just playing another role? The grateful rescued princess? The question was more perceptive than I'd expected, and it made me look at her with new respect. I think you're exactly who you are, I said, and I think that's someone worth knowing. That night, I gave Aiyana my bedroom and slept on the couch. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the extraordinary woman sleeping in the next room. I'd saved her life, but somehow I felt like she might be saving mine. The next morning, I woke to the sound of horses approaching. Through the window, I could see a group of riders coming up the road to my ranch. Native Americans in traditional dress, led by an elderly man with long gray braids and eyes that seemed to see everything. Chief Joseph Crow Feather had come. For his granddaughter, Aiyana, I called softly, knocking on the bedroom door. Your grandfather is here. She emerged, still wearing my clothes, her face pale but determined. I knew this moment would come, she said. I just hoped I'd have more time to prepare. Are you ready for this? No, but I don't think I ever would be. We walked out onto the porch together to meet Chief Crow Feather and his entourage. The old chief's eyes moved from his granddaughter to me, taking in every detail. Grandfather, Aiyana said in English, then continued in what I assumed was Blackfoot. The chief listened without interruption, his weathered face giving nothing away. When she finished, he turned to me. You are Daniel McKenzie, he said in accented but clear English. Yes, sir. You saved my granddaughter's life. I did what anyone would have done. No, the chief said firmly. You did what a man of honor does, and now, according to our traditions, you must face the consequences of your actions. Consequences? Chief Crow Feather's next words would change my life forever. By saving the life of a daughter of our tribe, you have created a sacred debt. According to our laws, you must marry her to restore the balance and honor both our peoples. I felt the world tilt on its axis. I'm sorry. What? You will marry my granddaughter, Daniel McKenzie, or face the wrath of the Blackfoot Nation. The silence that followed Chief Crow Feather's declaration was deafening. I stood on my porch, still processing what I'd just heard, while Aiyana looked as shocked as I felt. Grandfather, Aiyana said in English, her voice strained. You can't be serious. I am completely serious. Granddaughter, this man saved your life when you were in mortal danger. According to our most sacred traditions, a life debt has been created that can only be resolved through marriage. But that's medieval? I stammered, finding my voice at last. Chief Crow Feather's eyes flashed. Do not insult our traditions, Mr. McKenzie. They have guided our people for thousands of years. I meant no disrespect, sir. But surely in the modern world, the chief interrupted, has brought nothing but pain to my people. We have lost our land, our language, our young people to your cities and your ways. The few traditions we have left are sacred to us. I looked at Aiyana, hoping for support, but she seemed as trapped as I felt. Chief Crow Feather, I said, trying to keep my voice respectful. I understand that your traditions are important to you, but you can't force two people to marry who barely know each other, can't I? The old man's voice was quiet but carried an unmistakable threat. You live on land that borders our reservation, Mr. McKenzie. Your cattle drink from streams that flow through our territory. Your business depends on the goodwill of your neighbors. The implication was clear. If I refused to marry Aiyana, I could expect trouble from the Blackfoot Nation, and in this part of Montana, that could mean the end of my ranch. This is insane, I said, more to myself than to anyone else. What's insane, said one of the younger men in the chief's entourage, is a white man thinking he can take what he wants from our people without consequences. Thomas, Aiyana said sharply, and I realized, this must be Thomas Running Bear, the man she was supposed to marry. No, Aiyana, Thomas continued, his dark eyes fixed on me. This outsider thinks he can play hero and walk away. But our laws are clear. Your laws, I said, my temper beginning to rise, don't apply to me. I'm not a member of your tribe. You became subject to our laws the moment you interfered in tribal affairs. Chief Crow Feather said calmly, interfered. I saved her life. Yes, and now you must take responsibility for that life. I looked around at the faces surrounding me, some hostile, some curious, all watching to see what I would do. This was clearly a test of some kind, but I wasn't sure what the right answer was. What if I refuse? I asked. Then you will be declared an enemy of the Blackfoot Nation, the chief replied. Your ranch will be boycotted. Your cattle will be turned away from our lands. Your workers, many of whom are Native American, will be forbidden from working for you. And if I agree, then you will be welcomed as a son of our people. Your ranch will prosper. Your children will grow up knowing both worlds. Children, I choked out, of course. The purpose of marriage is to create the next generation. I felt like I was drowning again, but this time there was no rescue coming. I need time to think about this, I said. You have until sunset, Chief, Crow Feather declared. We will return then for your answer. With that, the entire group mounted their horses and rode away, leaving Aiyana and me alone on the porch. I'm so sorry, Aiyana said as soon as they were out of sight. I had no idea he would do this. Did you know about this tradition? I'd heard of it, but I thought it was just a legend. Something from the old days that no one practiced anymore. Well, apparently your grandfather still practices it. We went back inside, both of us needing coffee and time to process what had just happened. Daniel, Aiyana said as we sat at my kitchen table. You don't have to do this. I won't let my grandfather destroy your life because of me. What choice do I have? If I refuse, I lose everything I've worked for. There has to be another way. Like what? I could leave? Go far away where my grandfather can't find me, and spend the rest of your life running. That's no way to live. It's better than forcing you into a marriage you don't want. I looked at her sitting across from me, her dark eyes filled with guilt and worry, and realized something that surprised me. Who says I don't want it? What, Aiyana? I've been alone for 8 years. I've convinced myself that I prefer it that way, but maybe I've just been afraid of getting hurt again. You can't marry me just because you're lonely. I'm not talking about marrying you because I'm lonely. I'm talking about the possibility that maybe this crazy situation is giving us both something we need. What do you mean? You want freedom from an arranged marriage to someone you don't love? I want ... Well, I want not to be alone anymore. Maybe we can help each other. A marriage of convenience. Maybe or maybe something more. We won't know unless we try. Aiyana stared at me for a long moment. You're serious? Dead serious. Look, I know this is crazy. I know we barely know each other, but I also know that I felt something yesterday when I pulled you out of that creek. Something I haven't felt in a long time. What did you feel? Like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing exactly what I was supposed to do. Daniel ... I'm not saying we have to fall in love overnight. I'm saying maybe we give this a chance. See where it leads. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll figure that out when we come to it. But at least we'll both be free to make our own choices. Aiyana was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the mountains in the distance. There's something you need to know, she said finally. What? If we do this, if we actually get married according to Blackfoot tradition, it won't be just a piece of paper. In my grandfather's eyes, in the eyes of my people, it will be real, sacred, not something to be entered into lightly or discarded. I understand. Because once we take those vows, you'll be part of my family, my tribe. You'll have responsibilities, obligations. It won't just be about us anymore. What kind of responsibilities? You'll be expected to learn our ways, to respect our traditions, to raise any children we might have, to know both cultures. Children, I repeated, the word hitting me like a physical blow. Yes, children. My grandfather will expect us to have children. It's part of the tradition. I thought about that, about little ones running around the ranch, learning to ride horses and speak Blackfoot, bridging to worlds just by existing. Would that be so terrible, I asked? No, Aiyana said softly. It wouldn't be terrible at all. We spent the rest of the day talking, really talking, about our lives, our dreams, our fears. I learned that Aiyana had always felt caught between two worlds, the traditional world of her grandfather and the modern world of her education. She wanted to use her environmental science degree to help her people, but she also wanted the freedom to make her own choices. I've never been allowed to just be myself, she said. I've always been the chief's granddaughter first, Aiyana second. And what would just being Aiyana look like? I don't know. That's what scares me. Maybe we can figure it out together. As the sun began to set, we heard the sound of horses approaching again. Chief Crow Feather had returned for his answer. Are you ready for this? I asked Aiyana. No, but I think that's okay. We walked out onto the porch together, and I took her hand. It felt right, natural, like we'd been holding hands for years instead of hours. Chief Crow Feather, I said, my voice steady, despite the magnitude of what I was about to say. I accept your terms. I will marry your granddaughter, according to Blackfoot tradition. The old chief's face remained impassive, but I thought I saw a flicker of approval in his eyes. And you, granddaughter, do you accept this man as your husband? Aiyana squeezed my hand. I do, grandfather. Then it is settled. The ceremony will take place in 3 days. At the next full moon, you will both come to the reservation tomorrow to begin the preparations. What kind of preparations? I asked. You must learn our ways, Mr. McKenzie. You cannot marry a daughter of the Blackfoot Nation without understanding what that means. I'm willing to learn. We shall see. Thomas will be your guide. He will teach you what you need to know. I looked at Thomas Running Bear, who was glaring at me with undisguised hostility. Is that wise? I asked. Given the circumstances, Thomas is a man of honor, the chief said firmly. He will do his duty, regardless of his personal feelings. Thomas stepped forward, his jaw clenched. I will teach you our ways, white man, but do not expect me to like it. I don't expect you to like anything about this situation, I replied, but I do expect you to treat me with the same respect I'm showing you. Respect. Thomas laughed bitterly. You steal the woman I was meant to marry and you talk about respect? I didn't steal anyone. Your chief made this decision, not me. Enough, Chief Crow Feather said sharply. Thomas, you will remember your place. Daniel, you will remember that you are a guest among our people. Both of you will behave with honor or face my displeasure. The threat in the old man's voice was unmistakable. Both Thomas and I nodded our understanding. Tomorrow at dawn, the chief continued, you will come to the reservation. Aiyana will stay with her aunt to prepare for the ceremony. You will stay with Thomas and learn what it means to be a Blackfoot husband. Grandfather, Aiyana said, is this really necessary? Can't we have a simple ceremony? There is nothing simple about what you are doing. Granddaughter, you are joining two peoples, two ways of life. The ceremony must reflect that importance. As the group prepared to leave, Chief Crow Feather approached me one last time. Mr. McKenzie, he said quietly, do not think this will be easy. My granddaughter is precious to me, more precious than you can understand. If you hurt her, if you fail to honor your commitments, there will be consequences. I understand, sir. I hope you do. For both your sakes. That night, Aiyana and I sat on the porch, looking up at the stars and trying to comprehend what we'd just committed to. Are we crazy? She asked. Probably. But maybe crazy is exactly what we both need. I'm scared, Daniel. So am I, but I'm also excited. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm moving towards something instead of just standing still. What if we can't make it work? Then we'll have tried. That's more than a lot of people can say. As we sat there in the darkness, I realized that somewhere in the space of 24 hours, my entire life had changed. I was about to marry a woman I'd known for one day, join a culture I knew almost nothing about, and take on responsibilities I couldn't even imagine. But as I looked at Aiyana, silhouetted against the starlight, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hoped that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and probably new conflicts. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone, and that felt like a pretty good place to start. Dawn came too soon, bringing with it the reality of what I'd committed to. As I prepared to leave for the reservation, I felt a mixture of excitement and terror that reminded me of my first day of school, my first job interview, and my wedding day all rolled into one. Aiyana had left with her aunt the night before, and the house felt empty without her presence. It was strange how quickly I'd gotten used to having her around, how natural it had felt to share meals and conversation with her. Thomas Running Bear arrived at exactly sunrise, his expression as welcoming as a thundercloud. Are you ready, white man? He asked without dismounting. Ready as I'll ever be. And my name is Daniel. I know what your name is. The ride to the reservation took about an hour, and Thomas spent most of it in hostile silence. Finally, I decided to break the ice. Look, Thomas, I know this situation isn't easy for you. It's not easy for me either. You have no idea what this situation is for me. Then tell me. Thomas reined in his horse and turned to face me, his dark eyes blazing with anger and pain. Aiyana and I have known each other since we were children. We were promised to each other when we were teenagers. I have spent 10 years preparing to be her husband, to build a life with her, to honor her and protect her. I'm sorry I didn't know. And now, because you decided to play hero, all of that is gone. She will marry you instead, and I will spend the rest of my life watching the woman I love belong to someone else. The raw pain in his voice hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so focused on my own situation that I hadn't really considered what this meant for Thomas. Thomas, I save it, he said, spurring his horse forward. Just remember that you didn't just save her life, you destroyed mine. The rest of the ride passed in silence, but Thomas's words echoed in my head. I'd been thinking of this as a solution to both Aiyana's and my problems, but I hadn't considered the collateral damage. The Blackfoot reservation was unlike anything I'd expected. Instead of the poverty and despair I'd heard about in the news, I saw a community that was clearly struggling, but also clearly proud. Children played in well-maintained yards, elders sat on porches sharing stories, and everywhere I looked, I saw evidence of a culture that refused to be extinguished. Thomas led me to a modest house where Chief Crow Feather was waiting. Mr. McKenzie, the chief said, welcome to our home. For the next 3 days, you will live as one of us. You will eat our food, learn our customs, and understand what it means to be part of our people. I'm honored, sir. Honor is earned, not given. We shall see if you are worthy of it. The first day was a crash course in Blackfoot culture and history. I learned about the tribe's connection to the land, their spiritual beliefs, and the devastating impact of European colonization. I heard stories of battles fought and lost, of children taken to boarding schools and forbidden to speak their native language, of a people who had lost almost everything but refused to lose themselves. Your people took our buffalo, said an elderly woman named Mary Crow Dog, as we sat around a fire that evening. They took our land, our children, our way of life. And now you want to take one of our daughters too. I don't want to take anything, I said carefully. I want to honor your traditions and be worthy of the trust you're placing in me. Pretty words, Mary said. But words are easy. Actions are what matter. Then judge me by my actions. Oh, we will, she said with a smile that wasn't entirely friendly. We definitely will. The second day focused on the practical aspects of being a Blackfoot husband. I learned about the responsibilities I would have to Aiyana's extended family, the role I would play in tribal decisions, and the expectations for how I would raise any children we might have. A Blackfoot man provides for his family, explained Robert Crow Feather, the chief's son and Aiyana's uncle, but he also protects the culture. Your children must know their heritage, must speak our language, must understand their place in the world. I want that too, I said. I want them to know both sides of their heritage. Both sides, Robert repeated thoughtfully. That will not be easy. The white world and our world. They don't always fit together well. Maybe it's time they did. Maybe, but that will depend on you, Daniel, on whether you can truly become one of us while remaining who you are. That evening, I was allowed to see Aiyana for the first time since we'd arrived at the reservation. She was staying with her aunt in a house decorated for the upcoming ceremony, and when I saw her, my breath caught in my throat. She was wearing traditional Blackfoot dress, a beautiful buckskin gown decorated with intricate beadwork and porcupine quills. Her long black hair was braided with eagle feathers, and she wore jewelry that looked like it had been passed down through generations. You look, I started, then stopped, unable to find words. Different, she asked with a smile. Beautiful. You look absolutely beautiful. Thank you. How are you holding up with your training? It's intense. I'm learning things I never knew I didn't know. Like what? Like how much history I was never taught in school. Like how different our worldviews really are. Like how much responsibility comes with marrying into your family. Aiyana's expression grew serious. Are you having second thoughts? Are you? I asked first. I took her hands in mine, marveling at how right it felt. No second thoughts, I said. But I'm beginning to understand what a big step this is, not just for us, but for our families, our communities. My grandfather says that sometimes the spirits put people in each other's paths for a reason. Do you believe that? I'm starting to. We talked for hours that night, sharing stories from our childhoods, our dreams for the future, our fears about what we were about to do. I told her about my failed marriage, about the loneliness of ranch life, about my hope that maybe this time, things could be different. She told me about growing up as the chief's granddaughter, about the pressure to be perfect, about her dreams of finding a way to help her people while still being true to herself. I've never felt like I could just be me, she said. There were always expectations, responsibilities, traditions to uphold. And how do you feel now? Scared? Excited? Like maybe for the first time in my life, I'm making a choice that's really mine, even though your grandfather is essentially forcing us into this. He's not forcing us. He's giving us an opportunity. What we do with it is up to us. The third day was dedicated to the spiritual aspects of marriage and Blackfoot culture. I participated in a sweat lodge ceremony where I was purified and blessed by the tribal elders. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The intense heat, the prayers in a language I was only beginning to understand, the sense of being connected to something much larger than myself. The spirits have accepted you, Chief Crow Feather told me afterward. You are ready to become a husband too, my granddaughter. How can you tell? Because you are still here. Because you have shown respect for our ways. Because you have not run away when things became difficult. Did you think I would run away? I hoped you would not, but many white men would have. That evening, as the full moon rose over the reservation, the wedding ceremony began. It was held in a large meadow surrounded by mountains, with the entire tribe in attendance. Fires burned in a circle around the ceremonial space, and the air was filled with the scent of sage and sweetgrass. I wore traditional Blackfoot clothing that had been made for me, buckskin pants and shirt decorated with beadwork that told the story of my rescue of Aiyana. It felt strange, but also somehow right, like I was putting on a new identity along with the new clothes. Aiyana looked radiant in the firelight, her dress shimmering with each movement. When she walked toward me, accompanied by her female relatives, I felt my heart skip a beat. The ceremony itself was conducted entirely in Blackfoot, with Chief Crow Feather serving as the official. Even though I couldn't understand most of the words, I could feel the power and significance of what was happening. We exchanged vows that had been translated for me, promising to honor each other, to protect each other, and to raise our children, to know both worlds. We shared sacred water from the creek where I'd saved Aiyana's life, symbolically joining our spirits as well as our lives. When Chief Crow Feather declared us married, the entire tribe erupted in celebration. There was drumming and dancing, feasting and storytelling that went on late into the night. But the moment that meant the most to me came when Thomas, Running Bear, approached us during the celebration. Aiyana, he said formally, I wish you happiness. In your marriage, Thomas? She replied, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be happy. That's all I ever wanted for you. Then he turned to me. Daniel McKenzie, you are now my brother. I may not like how this came to be, but I will honor the chief's decision and the tribe's traditions. Thank you, Thomas. That means more than you know. Take care of her, he said quietly. She deserves to be loved. She will be. As the celebration continued around us, Aiyana and I found ourselves standing together at the edge of the firelight, looking up at the stars. So, she said, we're married. We're married. How do you feel? Like my life just started over? Like everything that happened before was just preparation for this moment? That's very romantic for a practical rancher. Maybe you're bringing out a side of me I didn't know existed. Maybe we're bringing out the best in each other. 6 months later, as I write this story, I can say that marriage to Aiyana has been the greatest adventure of my life. It hasn't been easy. Merging two cultures, two ways of life, two sets of expectations has required constant communication, compromise, and patience. But it's also been incredibly rewarding. Aiyana has brought joy and purpose to my life that I never knew I was missing. She's helped me see my ranch, my community, and myself through new eyes. Together, we've started programs that bring native and non-native communities together, working on environmental conservation and cultural preservation. And yes, we're expecting our first child, a little one who will grow up knowing both worlds, speaking both languages, and hopefully bridging the gaps that have divided our peoples for too long. The rescue that started it all seems like a lifetime ago now, but I'm grateful every day that I was in the right place at the right time, that I chose to act instead of walking away, and that sometimes the most unexpected circumstances can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. Chief Crow Feather was right. Saving Aiyana's life created a sacred debt. But what I've learned is that the debt wasn't just mine to pay. It was ours to honor together, and in doing so, we've created something beautiful, something lasting, something that honors both our traditions while building something entirely new. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes love finds you when you're not looking for it. And sometimes, just sometimes, two worlds can become one. The end. Disclaimer: this story is completely fictional and created for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental.